Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Alexey, and today what we're gonna be doing is mixing virtual metal drums. So today we're gonna be using Background Digital Krimh drums. So first of all, let's have a listen to the final sound of our virtual metal drums. Now let's have a listen to our drums without plugins and without audio processing. So let's start mixing our drums, and let's start with our kick. So now let's have a listen to our kick. So here under our kick we have 3 slots, and we can choose between EQ, compressor, transient and saturation. So let's start with our EQ. So here we have SSL EQ, and we can boost some lows to create a good low end for our kick. Then to make our kick sound cleaner in the mix, we can cut some low mids. And to add some top end to our kick, we can boost some mid highs and highs. So let's have a listen to our kick with and without EQ. Then to make our kick sound louder in the mix and to make our kick sound punchy in the mix, we can use a compressor. So here we have 1176 compressor and I used very fast release and fast attack to make our kick sound punchy in the mix. So let's have a listen to our kick with and without compressor. And finally, to add some body to our kick, we can use a little bit of saturation. So let's have a listen to our kick with and without saturation. Now let's have a listen to our kick sub without any audio processing. So again we can use EQ. So here I boosted some lows again to create a good low end for our kick. And to make our kick sub sound, I boosted some mid highs and I boosted some highs. So let's have a listen to our kick sub with and without EQ. Then again I used compressor, again to make our kick sub sound louder and punchy in the mix. Again I used fast release and fast attack. And finally I used transient and here I added a little bit of attack to our kick sub. I cut a little bit of sustain and by boosting a little bit of output I made our kick sub sound louder in the mix. So let's have a listen to our kick sub with and without transient. Now let's have a listen to our snare tab without audio processing. So again I used EQ and I boosted some lows on our snare tap to add some body to our snare tap. Then to make our snare tap sound cleaner in the mix, I cut some mid lows, and to create a good tap end for our snare tap, I boosted some mid highs and I boosted some highs. So let's listen to our snare tap with and without EQ. Then I used some compression to make our snare tap sound louder and punchy in the mix. And finally I used a little bit of saturation to add some body to our snare tap. Now let's listen to our snare bottom without any audio processing. So again I used some EQ and again I boosted some lows to add some body and low end to our snare bottom. To make our snare bottom sound clean in the mix, I cut some low mids, and to make our snare bottom sound a little bit brighter in the mix, I boosted some highs. So let's listen to our snare bottom with and without EQ. And then to make our snare bottom sound louder in the mix, I used some compressor. So now let's listen to our kicks and our snares together. Now let's listen to our thumb 2 without any audio processing. So first of all, I used some EQ. To add some good body to our Tom 2, I decided to boost some lows. Then I cut some mid lows to make our Tom 2 sound cleaner in the mix. And to create a good top end for our Tom 2, I boosted some mid highs and I boosted some highs. So let's have a listen to our Tom 2 with and without EQ. Then I used some compression on our Tom 2 to make our Tom 2 sound louder and punchy in the mix. And finally I used transient to add some attack and to add some sustain to our Tom 2. Now let's have a listen to our Tom 3 without any audio processing. So again I used some EQ to add some lows and to add some highs to our Tom 3. Let's have a listen to our Tom 3 with and without EQ. Again I used some compression to make our Tom 3 sound louder and punchy in the mix. Now let's have a listen to our Tom 4 without any audio processing. So here for our Tom 4 I used EQ and I boosted some mid highs and highs to create a good top end for our Tom 4. And again to make our Tom 4 sound louder and punchy in the mix I used some compression. Now let's have a listen to our hi-hat without any audio processing. So here first of all again I used some EQ and to make our hi-hat sound clean in the mix I cut some low mids, and to make our hi-hat sound brighter in the mix I boosted some mid highs and I boosted some highs. So let's have a listen to our hi-hat with and without EQ. To make our hi-hat sound louder in the mix I used compressor. Now let's have a listen to our overheads without any audio processing. So again, first of all I used some EQ and to make our overheads sound clean in the mix I cut some lows and I cut some mid lows. And to make our overheads sound brighter in the mix I boosted some high mids and I boosted some highs. And to make our overheads sound louder in the mix I used compressor, and here I used slow attack and fast release. And finally, let's have a listen to our room without any audio processing. So here I used EQ, and to make our room sound cleaner in the mix, I cut some mid lows, and I cut some mid highs, and I cut some highs. And to make our room sound louder in the mix, I used compressor, and here I used fast attack and fast release. Now let's go to our master section of our Krimh drums. And here I used short reverb for our drums, and I used parallel compression for our drums. And finally I used master EQ. Here I boosted some lows around 60 Hz, then I cut some mids around 250 Hz and 600 Hz, and I boosted some highs around 2 kHz, and I boosted some highs around 12 kHz. So let's have a listen to our drums with short reverb, parallel compression and master EQ. So after mixing our Krimh drums by using mixer in our Krimh drums, I created additional 16 audio channels and I did some additional audio processing for our drums. And since I joined Christian Cole's Color Audio cult, I started watching courses on metal production, and here for additional audio processing of our metal drums, I decided to use some tricks I learned from Metal Drums Processing course by Christian Cole at Color Audio Cult. So let's start with our kick again. So first of all, I used Waves Audio Smack Attack to add some attack to our kick. Then I used Infinity EQ, and here I boosted highs to create a good top end for our kick. I cut some mids, and to create a good low end for our kick, I boosted some lows. And finally, I decided to cut some rumble of our kick. Now let's go to our kick sub, and here I used Infinity EQ, and I cut all the highs of our kick sub, and I boosted some lows to create a good low end for our kick sub. Now let's go to our snare tab. So first of all I used Infinity EQ, and here I boosted some highs to create a good tab end for our snare tab and to make our snare tab sound brighter in the mix. Then I cut some mids to make our snare tab sound cleaner, and I boosted a little bit of lows to create a body to our snare tab, and finally I cut some lows of our snare tab. Then after Infinity EQ I used one more Infinity EQ, and here I cut some mids to make our snare tab sound cleaner in the mix. And finally, to make our snare tab sound punchy in the mix, I used smack attack, and here I added a little bit of attack to our snare tab. Now let's go to our snare bottom, and here I used Infinity EQ, and I cut some highs of our snare bottom to make our snare bottom sound cleaner in the mix. For our toms, I used Infinity EQ, and I used the same settings of Infinity EQ for our toms. So here I boosted highs to create a good top end for our toms. To make our toms sound cleaner, I cut some mids, and to add some body to our toms, I boosted a little bit of lows. And to control highs on our toms, I used Waves Audio Multiband Compressor C6. Now let's go to our hi-hat. So here I used Infinity EQ, and here I just cut a lot of lows to make our hi-hat sound cleaner in the mix. Now let's go to our overheads. So first of all I used Flux Stereo tool to make our overheads sound more stereo and more wider. And after stereo tool I used Infinity EQ. Here I boosted some highs to create a good top end for our overheads. To make our overheads sound cleaner in the mix, I cut some mids and I cut some lows. And finally, let's go to our room. So here, first of all, I used Infinity EQ, and I cut some lows, I cut some highs, a lot of highs, and I cut some mids to make our room sound cleaner in the mix. And after Infinity EQ, I used CLA 76 compressor to make our room sound louder in the mix. Now let's talk a little bit about our drums reverb, and here I used Waves Audio H reverb, and here I used large plate preset. So let's have a listen to our drums with our drum reverb. Then, to have more control on mixing of our drums, I created some drums groups. So here I have groups for our kicks, snare, toms, cymbals and drums. And I sent our kick, snare, toms and cymbals groups to our drums group. And I used some plugins on our drums group. So first of all, I used Slate Digital Distressor to make our entire drums sound much more punchier, and then I used Infinity EQ. So here I boosted some highs to make our drums sound more present, and to make our drums sound clean I cut some mids, then I boosted a little bit of lows, and I cut some lows to get rid of the rumble. So now let's listen to our drums one more time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video will be useful for you. Don't forget to check out Bogren Digital Krimh drums. A link will be in the info box of this video. Also, you can join Christian Kolos Color Audio Cult to develop your skills on metal mixing and metal production. And also, if you like my videos and if you like my sound, you can check out my brand new website where you can read some information about me and you can listen to my mixing and mastering portfolio. And if you like my sound, you can hire me for mixing and mastering of your metal music. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.